Hey, Bryce.
I am.
Bryce, you've been on Board of Equalization prior to
I have never been to one, no.
process. Every year, the assessor is required to appraise all properties for a market value for that year. They send out a notice if you disagree, you have a chance to file an appeal to us. And terms, used to this Board of Equalization. And we'll let you explain your case for about 10 minutes, and then they'll defend their value for about 10, and then we'll have questions, make a determination. If we're not happy with what we determined today, then based on what we hear in this meeting, then you'll have an opportunity to appeal it to the state board of tax appeals, which means here in September. So with that, for everybody to speak under oath. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay. This is a quasi procedure. That's quite important. Okay, so you have a property on Stafford Circle that you just say the valuation is too high.
Yeah.
And it should be 491, 360.
I could probably argue for less now that I've dug in deeper, but with what I did in prep, I'm fine with that valuation. And we'll argue that one for you. I think that's totally supported in those scenarios. So when I did that one, I find it funny. I called and they gave me, I didn't write down the name of the first person I spoke to, so I do apologize. I did get a hold of the Dustin. The second time I called in, that's you. Okay. And when we're chatting, it's funny because I do real estate by trade. That's what I do. And they're telling me how they evaluate these houses, and it's just kind of crazy to tell you the truth. But I based it off of, I'll give you the address. It's 5161 East Tildy. It went for 582 on October of 2020, which is 154 square foot and 19 cents. 1718 Tildy Drive. Tildy is the closest. It's just around the corner from the house, actually, but it's also closest in year, all of that. 1718 Tildy is across the road in the Villa subdivision. It went from 585 in October of 2020, which is 167.81, brand new construction. And then we have 2020, sorry. Yeah, October 2020. And then we had 1475 Castilla Drive, went from 545 August of 2022 for 169 a square foot. When I averaged those out, that puts all our land, it puts all our amount of garages, everything pretty equal. These homes are actually all a little bit bigger than mine. Mine's one of the smallest homes in my subdivision. It came out to 163.79 a square foot when I averaged it, which when you multiply that by my square footage, gave you that 141 and change that I wrote on the paper that you have there. Since then, obviously, with a bunch of research, I have a whole lot here, and I'm happy to pass it around. Here's 9 more comps. I broke down the square footages. You can look through all the paperwork, the years, the stalls, the lot sizes. It brings the house to 476 on that one. And then I even have, Justin said I could bring in 2023 values. I bring in 2023, which even lower it even further. Again, I understand that doesn't apply to 2022 really, but we are way off market on how they look at these judgments. Here's the other thing that I brought in for you. There's a 30-page report I do on a monthly basis of stats for that's Bonneville County. I did 5 different counties. And I did bring 3 of these because they said there'd be 3 commissioners. Here is your price per square foot breakdown, all the way back to 2019 for every month and the average for the years. The average for last year came to 163 at the end of the year in December, which is what Dustin said was what I should kind of base my price off of, because it was sold for on the last day of December. The average in Bonneville County was 141 a square foot, which would even drop my price even further.
Couple questions on how do you calculate square foot? So just main floor?
No, you're all the floors.
Okay.
And I mean, you guys are welcome to come to my house. You look at these new constructions and the prices they're going for, they've got granite, they've got all the updated amenities, they've got everything. For me to sell my house like theirs, I need to put 50 to 80,000 into mine. I don't have granite countertops. My whole kitchen needs to be remodeled. All the bathrooms would have to be updated to be equal. What you guys are, evaluating on it doesn't compare. All my flooring needs to be redone. It's all outdated. My siding's bad and faded. I mean, there's all that stuff that has to be done to bring it up to par with what these other ones are.
Well, the reason I asked on the question on square foot is just their square foot, they don't calculate on the floor.
I know, which is dumb. That's not how real estate's done.
This massive grade one state. So.
Okay, well then let's look at my two neighbors. We'll come into 2023 over there. Those ones are,
Well, that's what I think we'll be looking at.
I have both my neighbors sold. There are no other 2 stories.
Although,
Well, I thought it was my dad.
okay, it is a level question, because, trying to find out the method that you use, different method they use, so they can.
Well, maybe they need to learn a new method to properly evaluate real estate, how real estate's done.
Okay, I think you're gonna see a difference because they do it by state statute, and rules.
Right.
State tax commission, so.
Oh, maybe the state needs to do it better.
Okay.
They said they look all the way across town. You can't tell me what sells here on the west side is the same as what sells in Hampton, which is how they said they do it. My subdivision, Quail Ridge, Moore Loma, Founder's Point, each subdivision can demand a different price compared to the rest of the county. And they're comparing all the way across from what they told me. They told me they had 9 comparables, and I walked in here today, we only have 6 on the table.
Okay, anything else?
Well, you said, if you want to compare, my neighbors are over 4,000 square feet, so they're 2,000 up. No, I'm going to their method. They're 2,000 up.
Explain their method with your neighbors.
So what we did is I pulled what I felt was similar properties. They are across the county because that's the way that we're supposed to do it. As far as size goes, they are all 2-story homes. None of these are ranches. They are all 2-story. As far as year built, they're all within about 5 years, the subject property. The size, as far as the above grade, is within probably 150 square feet on either side. The quality I feel is pretty similar. I didn't pull things like Quail Ridge and Loma because they are, in my opinion, a higher quality than something that's sitting in the cottages. So I pulled what I felt were comparable quality wise, year, style, and size. When I figure it, I get the average on the sales at $226.96, and his value is coming in at $222.88.
And that's based on the square foot.
Everything above, so they're making as effective.
We're doing 2 stories. When I do look at the Castilian and Tildy, doing the same method, we take their sell price minus the land value divided by above ground square footage. They're the $2 per square foot ones. Castilian comes in at $292. That's the square foot, and Tildy comes in at $260.42 a square foot.
Still, it comes in at
$292. 1755 on the main.
and there's 1,022.
Well, on the main, yes, but with main and second floor is 2,028, so it's smaller. The one at Castelia is smaller by about 300 square feet.
This is smaller, what was the sale price?
85.
85, what was that?
November of 2022.
There's still a 2020 sale. You get that one.
That one was one sold in 2022 for 585.
Which one?
1780, 1718 to
Philly Drive, 585 October 2022.
All in favor? When you stated the first time, you said 2020 sale.
Yeah, I might have, well, you asked me to clarify, I did, yeah, so.
That's the one that you pulled up.
No, that's,
Well, I mean, that's the one you're talking
Yeah.
about.
right.
And what was the other ones?
Tildy 5161 Tildy sold for 582. It is 1,900 square feet on the main 1910. $260.42.
That was when 2022.
October. So one of the challenges when we're utilizing this method is we will find if we were to go through and use the whole square footage of county square footage, it's going to come out in the wash generally. And that's why we're specifically using ranches when we're comparing ranches and 2 stories, we're comparing 2 stories, because this is a perfect example of, you know, the home on Tildy and the home on Castilla, where they're overall they're going to be more square footage because they're generally going to have a larger basement. You know, that on a 2-story, the main floor and the second floor are going to account for a similar square footage, 1,000 on each floor. That means the basement's probably 1,000, whereas these two, you know, similar square footage above ground being around 2,000, their basements could be around 2,000 as well. So we do find that when we're looking for comparables, if we're looking at a ranch, it's going to sell for more than a 2-story with similar above ground square footage. But if we were to break it out and go by total square footage, generally when we're comparing 2 stories to 2 stories, they're going to come out in the wash essentially.
Yeah, big ranch.
The Tilbury and the Castilla, yes, they are. That's why we didn't include them.
Are there any other specific sales that we have? That you want to look at?
I haven't actually. I can look up anything you need me to.
Are there any others?
Are there any 2 stories?
Oh, I'm going through theirs real quick. It's funny because some of these don't even show as sales. They don't pull up in the system, so I don't know where they're getting their numbers from on them.
So every sale of ours comes from, anytime a property sells, we'll send a survey and a verification letter that essentially says, hey, we know the streets they purchased it. We'll generally try to get an updated information if there's been any updates or any changes, and then also requesting that sales information. Obviously, we're not a full disclosure state, so we look at all of them. And then we also utilize the MLS sales. So every sale of ours is either verified through a letter from homeowner or through the MLS.
Okay. Well, we'll pick out the 2 that I can't find in the MLS, and your numbers match exactly with mine of price per square foot on the MLS.
Which 2 do you?
The 2 that do not pull up on the MLS are 1969 J Lee and 1581 Shady Pine. And their price per square foot on their first one, okay, we're gonna go for the whole thing, not just their above square foot, was 163.71. The second one was 171.35. The other was 167.76, and the other was 170. Average amount, that price is still too high, and that was their sales.
Ones that are not on there, on the MLS.
1581 Shady Pine and 4887 Casa Grande. At least they didn't pull up when I put them in. I don't know if you have anything different, Dustin.
You said J-Lee, so I was calling J-Lee.
Keep in mind, the thing we have to consider is comparing all homes with the same method.
Okay.
Because it's not as important of what your home values at, it's how it values compared to your neighbors, because that's the levy that's based on, right? So if everybody is valued the same method, then everybody's taxed fairly according to their value.
I couldn't sell my house last year for 540.
All I'm saying is it has to be compared the same way as every other house in the county is compared.
Correct, and they state that it's off what you could have sold it for. It will not sell for 540,000.
It says, what it says is, it houses in that price range and similar. So the system doesn't go out to listing, it doesn't go out what they're listed at. You don't have to say it.
Correct, I'm going off after sale prices too, all those show what they were listed for and what they're sold for, some of them sold for less, some of them sold for more. Than what they were listed for.
Shadow Mountain is a verified sell 480 on February 25th.
I know Shadow Mountain is, I didn't argue Shadow, I said Shady Pine and Jay Lee. And I know Shadow Mountain because I sold that.
Now you just said
Casa Grande.
Yeah. So Casa Grande sold as verified sell January 28th. So what two were you saying, Mike?
1969 Jay Lee and 1581 Shady Pine are the two that are not aware of the MLS that I can find.
That's different.
I said Casa Grande when I was reading the square footage price.
And when I asked you which two were on there, so mark them down, as you said. And you said Shady Pine, House Ground. So the two we need to look up, Jay Lee and Shady Pine.
Jay Lee sold. April 26, 2022, 442. Verified sell.
And what? In the MLS?
It's a verified, so we sent a letter.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, I can't find them in the MLS to compare them. On that, so what's your total square footage of that house? Not your square floor, your total square footage.
2730.
And it went for what? For
442.
I'm not arguing that it's not a verified sale, but. And that was Jay Lee, correct?
Correct. Fine. Second, 430,000 square footage, 2721 total.
April, and the other one was April as well.
1 second.
One was May.
So that,
April, those are the beginning of the year when it was hotter before everything went down as well. Again, you can look at your price per square foot, it will show that
2022.
huh? Yes.
so Dustin, that was a question that I had is why? Because it makes sense to me that some subdivisions would sell higher than others, you know, depending on what part of town you're in.
So that-
Why
so-
would we use?
We'll discover, so if we're looking at homes that are comparable homes, now I would agree if you were to take a home in the cottages and compare it to a home in Cloverdale, they're gonna sell different things. But generally, the homes that we're comparing are gonna be similar homes. You will find the homes in the cottages are generally gonna be the same as the homes in the meadows, you know, in some of these other areas. And I know we all hear location, 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 and that is true, but homes will sell. I think if you pick up a home in the cottages and drop it in another subdivision at somewhere else in town with similar homes, it's gonna sell for the same price, whether it's, the only time I really found a difference is if it's sitting out on acreage. But again, or if you were to take a home and drop it in the subdivision, there weren't like homes. You know, take this out, drop it in the middle of Bel Air, obviously, it's gonna sell differently. But the meadows, St. Clair Estates, the villas, I don't know if you're familiar with these, but they're gonna be comparable. I think that these indicate that, again, they're not selling any different.
And so it makes sense, then I guess to me, you're reaching out into others because you're trying to get more data.
So our,
Get a market pool of.
right, we're looking for the most comparable homes, and that's what we've done, looked at homes in about 150 square feet built in about 5 years, same quality construction and condition. And what they've sold for.
And sorry,
So I just had a question on the lot side, your lot. What we used to, on the average, twice as big as any of the others you sold. How do you think that affects the sale?
It can affect it, absolutely, but. I mean, that's why I use the comps that I do. Go look at the lots on those. They compare to mine. They're actually more comparable than the homes they're using, lot size, everything. Whether it's 2-story or a ranch, it doesn't matter in my subdivision. And I'm one of probably 3 2-story houses.
What's the lot size? Still in the building.
And that part, I don't know if Mr. Belnap is, if you use only the square footage, like they do, then your numbers come out.
No, they don't. I can do it with their numbers. Right here. Let's do the math on the J Lee they just did. 2378 divided by the 442 and gives you 160,143 a square foot.
It's only above ground square footage.
No, that's totally
2,650.
Yeah.
I can convert their stuff into the way I'm coming up with my numbers, and it proves my numbers are right.
You gotta complete your stuff with the way they do it. You have to only use above ground square footage.
Why can't we convert theirs to go back the other way to match mine?
I pointed out before, we do all homes the same way. It would be unfair to every other homeowner if we
And I,
did it your
but
way.
this is,
It would be arbitrary. We can't be arbitrary.
We have to
It's
use
not
their method.
This is mass appraisal. And it's the use of methods approved by the state. If we end up not holding your end of the deal, you'll have a chance to argue that to the state why they should change it. So, but I did look at this building, it's about 2/3 society lot. Building it was that lot about 20%. Those are a couple that I'm working pretty closely at because those, well, except over the ranch.
and they're brand new construction. Which are worth more. 05 versus 2022, 2023.
Is that when these were built?
Yeah.
We're going through and trying to utilize that method, taking the sell price dividing it by the total square footage.
And dividing it by year 6 gives you an average square footage of 165.26. I have all the numbers here if you want me to give them to you. You multiply that by my 3,000. Put you at 495,770. Within $5,000 of what I said it was.
Per year square footage, you say that you came up with on ours.
Okay, so your Daytona, I got 163.71. That way you have it. I want to make sure we're doing the math the same here.
So you're taking the sell price minus the land divided by the total square footage.
No, just total square footage divided by sale price. That includes your land when you buy a home.
But you have larger land.
Okay, I'm using your comps that you have at this moment.
Well, the point is the per square foot cost is affected by the cost of land. And they're melding that into everything. Which does make a difference, even more than it makes a difference on the size of the land. So
So how much is he gonna say that additional land is worth?
It's broken down. You can see the land values.
yeah. Land values.
So he's got this other one at 77, so there's only a $11,000 difference to add in there. He's got the other one at 65, so there's 23. It's still less than 540, what they appraised it at. Still shows their numbers are wrong.
Taking the land, taking the sell price, removing the land value and dividing it by the total square footage. I come up with on Daytona 160, Shadow Mountain 150. Jaylee 138. Sheep Pine 138. Casa Grande 151. Brookview 138. And on yours 118. Picking your sell price, removing the land value, dividing it by your total square footage of 3,800. Well, back square footage.
My sell price.
Sorry, your value.
18.
$540 divided by 3,000 is 118.
Oh, just sorry.
I guess minus you're saying that 88.
Oh. 147 average, 148 on yours.
Okay, how'd you get your 148? I came with 150.39. What you guys have it at?
548.23. The value reducing the 88.23. $30.28. 49.27.
The other thing I just noticed, looks like a lot of your comps have car garages. This one here,
No. That stack of 9 are all 3 stalls.
the other ones. There's 3 car garages,
I have 3 car garages, and they still come out with a lower price than theirs.
which adds to values as one plan, but not handle that square footage. The cost of building the garage is slightly less per square foot than what the value is. I built houses too. So we kind of know different
I
thoughts.
can see where this is going.
So I think if I understood you correctly, when you use his method on the other houses,
The average is 147 and his is 149. His lot is larger and his garage.
for such a value in terms of something.
Then that you do a copy of this. Copy of the information you need to file it, say, you're welcome to take it to them and argue that their method is wrong, and yours is right,
Yeah,
but I'd be curious to see how that comes out.
great.
They come here to do that, so.
Okay,
Thanks, easy. And it gives you a chance to use all the information for to feel a better case, against what you've got.
All of your information, is part of the record, along with what the assessor has along with this recording. So the copies of that will be built.
I need a copy of the recording. Okay,
I want it all, that's why it's, so we can check with Kayla once she gets the final documents together and we'll get you that.
when's the next election for you guys' positions?